Hey, I'm Allison from Learning at the Primary Pond. I'm a literacy specialist and I'm really excited for this video. In this video, I'm going to explain how and why we can map high frequency words, specifically irregularly spelled high frequency words, to help our K2 students learn these words more quickly. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, make sure to do that now and then also hit the little bell so that you're notified every time I post a brand new video about teaching literacy in K2. Okay, so first, let's quickly break down what high frequency words are and also what word mapping is in case you're not familiar with either of these two terms. I'll make it quick, but basically high frequency words appear frequently in texts. So words like the, and, is, right? So you might have heard of a Dolch list or a Fry list. To make those lists, someone literally looked through a bunch of beginning text and counted up which words appear most frequently, and that's how those words made it onto a list. Now, you might also have heard of sight words. Sight words are technically a little bit different. Sight words are just any words that a reader knows instantly by sight. So for me, I can read the word elephant instantly. It's a sight word for me. You have tons of sight words as an adult reader. Now, our goal is to take high frequency words and teach them to our students so that they become sight words for them. They're reading them quickly, instantly. This helps make reading and writing easier. It builds fluency, which then leads to comprehension. So that's why high frequency words are so important, and that's what they are. Okay, so, question actually before we get into what word mapping is. There are so many different words for high frequency words or terms. Do you call them heart words? Do you call them red words? Do you call them sight words, high frequency words, or something else? I would love to know in the comments because it's always just interesting to me what these different terms are, and sometimes it can be confusing when there's so many different terms out there. All right, so next let's move into what word mapping is. And there might be different terms for this, but I call it word mapping. And word mapping is taking a word, and the way I do it is I break it into the sound boxes because the purpose is for students to learn the relationships between the letters in that word and their sounds. So for example, I just recently mapped the word eat with a student, right? And I showed her how the E and the A work together to represent the E sound, and then how the T by itself is representing the T sound. So together we get eat. Now, this is a regularly spelled word, but I just wanted to use this example because this is a real example from my own teaching. And what was so interesting was that, and this is a reader who, reading is a little bit of a challenge, but now that I do this word mapping with her, what she is able to do is then recall when she's looking at the word on a card, not mapped at all, she is able to recall, oh yeah, the E and the A, and she'll tell me the E and the A are in one box. That's what she says. And so now she understands that they're working together to make one sound. Even though she doesn't know technically the EA pattern yet, we haven't covered it, she remembers, oh yeah, they're in one box, they're working together to make one sound, and she has mastered this word eat. So the purpose of mapping it is to help kids make those connections, like I was just talking about, between the sounds and the letters in the word. Okay, so by now you might be thinking, well, Allison, that's great. Eat is a regularly spelled word. What about the words that are tricky, that have what I like to call surprising sounds? You can call them irregularly spelled words because they don't follow typical sound letter correspondences. So here's an example. This is the word should. And the SH, typical, right, digraph, sh. But then the OU and L are working together to say Now that's a little strange, right? Normally we would spell that sound with like O, as in book, or maybe even the short U sometimes. So sh, this is the surprising or tricky part, and then the D is representing the D sound. So this is really the main irregularly spelled sound in should. Everything else is typical, okay? So we can say it's an irregularly spelled word, even though, not to go down a rabbit hole, sometimes there are patterns like would, right? Also spelled similarly. But we're talking, generally speaking, about irregularly spelled words not following typical letter sound correspondences in English that many, many other, English words follow. So it's a rule breaker, a pattern breaker. And as you saw, I mapped the word should. This might be surprising to you because I know that when I was taught high frequency words, or rather when I was taught to teach high frequency words, the way I learned was just you have to have the kids memorize them. They're tricky, so they just got to remember it. And in actuality, the kids' brains, as they're learning these words, they're actually learning the relationships between the letters and the sounds, whether we talk about it or not, okay? So their brains are orthographically mapping. I have another video or two about orthographic mapping, if that's a new term for you, after you finish watching this one. But their brains are connecting the sounds to the letters, whether or not we're teaching them. So the rationale behind word mapping and teaching the relationships between the letters and the sounds, even in irregularly spelled words, is because it helps facilitate the word learning process. It makes it easier for our kids to learn words when we're explicitly focusing on, hey, the O, U, and L, it's representing the sound, sh, d, right? So when we're explicitly teaching it, it's actually helping them learn words faster. Because the fact is that whether the brain is looking at a regularly spelled word like eat or an irregularly spelled word like should, the brain learns these words essentially in the same way. It's not like the brain is like, oh, well, we're going to connect the letters to the sounds for the word eat, but we're not going to connect the letters to the sounds for the word should, right? So the brain is learning words. The brain doesn't know the difference between regularly and irregularly spelled words automatically. It's learning these words the same way. I hope this is making sense so far. So because the brain is learning all words, or should be learning all words in the same way, it helps kids learn words, even irregularly spelled words, when we map and explicitly teach those relationships between the letters and sounds. Let me show you an example of what this might look like. I showed you the sound boxes, but it can be part of a whole process, because when kids are learning words, they also are connecting to the meaning of the word. So it shouldn't just be about like, here are the letters and sounds. It's also about the meaning of the word and getting them to use it. So here's an example of one of our high frequency word focus sheets, and I'll leave the link for this with the video, for the word wood. So this would be a word that kids have already been taught. It's already been mapped for them, with them, whatever, and now they're doing this as independent practice, or maybe partner practice, right? So they begin by tracing the word, they circle the correct word, and then they are what we call pushing the sounds. When this is flat on a table, which I can't really show you here, you can have them put 3 counters and push 1 counter into a box for each sound. However, I'm just going to show you tapping the sounds. So it would be w, d, right? So they're pushing or tapping the sounds, and then they're going to write it in sound boxes, just like I did for should. The only difference here would be is that the W is here instead of the SH. So they're going to write it in sound boxes. They have already seen me do this at least once, maybe more. So they understand how the letters correspond to the sounds already. Next up, they're reading it. They're tapping it on their arm. W-O-U-L-D, would. I have them do it 3 times. It's a great multisensory activity. I have them write the word, and then they are reading and underlining the word in sentences. So seeing the word in context is super important. And when I introduced the word would, I would have, no pun intended, I would have explained what it meant, or really just used it in some example sentences and had the kids orally come up with some sentences as well. So the meaning is an important part of our instruction here too, because we want to activate the brain areas that deal with the spelling of the word, the sounds of the word, and the meaning of the word, regardless of whether it's a regularly spelled word or an irregularly spelled word. Like I said, the brain is doing the same process to learn all of them. So let's just go through a couple of quick examples that you might be like, wow, these words are weird. How would I map them? Let's do the word what. Kind of a weird word. We see it all the time. T. And actually, I probably should have shown you, well, I guess I showed you on this sheet. I will connect, or I will just have the kids focus on the sounds first. So before I show them how to map it or get them to help me map it, I will just have blank boxes and say, okay, tell me the sounds in what? T. Okay, so the WH, pretty typical. They're working together to represent the W sound. And then the A, instead of a short A, like we might normally expect, it says This is why this word can be considered to be irregularly spelled. W, t. And then the T, not a surprising sound, right? So this is how you would map what. Some teachers will put a little heart. I don't know if you put it under or over, If you've heard of heart words, I mentioned that a long time ago. The heart is the part that the kids have to learn by heart, meaning it's the surprising sound where they just have to remember, oh, when I'm reading what, I need to remember that it's an sound instead of the sound. Okay, so that is what. Let me just show you a couple more. Okay, let's do the word there. Like, it is their fault that we couldn't come. So this word is mapped like this. Air. There. Okay, so the th sound is making the voiced th digraph sound. So no surprises there. The tricky part is, that's not a very good heart, but E-I-R. The sounds are th, air, and the air is spelled E-I-R, which can be considered to be surprising, right? There's other ways of spelling that sound. The air. T-H and E-I-R. Okay, let's just do one more example. Let's do the word buy, like to buy something at the store. Okay, so here we have buy, and the sounds are b, I. The long I sound is represented by the U and the Y. So there's tons of irregularly spelled words out there, but hopefully those examples are a good way to get started in thinking about how to do this with your students. Remember, the brain is treating all words equally, right? Equal opportunity for words. So we don't need to necessarily do anything different for regularly spelled words. However, we just need to get our kids to attend to those surprising parts like the UY, get them to pay a little more attention here so that they notice, hey, this is different from what I might expect. And here's what these letters, or here's the sounds that these letters are representing. Okay, so I hope that this was helpful. These high frequency word focus sheets, I have these for a lot of different words, Dolge, Fry, and then I also have games for them. So check out the link that I will include with this video. Of course, if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks again for watching, and I hope this was helpful. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.